Hey everyone! Welcome to Steven Universe, the show where we talk about the universe of Steven Universe. I'm your host, Victor Frost. First things first, the news.
There is no news.
Right. First things first, let's see what you folks have been up to. It's time for a review. About 4 months ago, a musician by the name of Darling Gypsum posted a link to the Steven Universe subreddit to a work-in-progress version of her covering Giant Woman, saying it was going to be part of a whole album of covers. Having previously ran a free music show and podcast, link in the doobly-doo and up here, I had a good feeling about the quality of this album based solely on what I heard in the demo. Well, 4 months later, I was certainly not disappointed. From top to bottom, this is a very strong album. Ms. Gypsum has a voice that has a light, soft, airy quality to it, but also retains a lot of depth and pairs extremely well with the ukulele, which is the main instrument in this release. A lot of the tracks live at a higher vocal range, songs like We Are the Crystal Gems, but it's the ones that she has to reinterpret or drop down to match the tone of the original singer that she really shines in. There are some technical production issues with this album, but nothing significant enough to detract from the overall quality of the entire release. It's mostly stuff that a professional audio engineer like me would hear after listening to it 8 or 9 times. So, what's the verdict? I'm going to be giving it 5 out of 5 Stevens. This is really one of my favorite cover albums ever, and you really need to listen to it after you're done watching this. My favorite track from it is Giant Woman Opal's Reprise, an original track that has such a wonderful, ethereal quality to it and is so very expressive. If my recommendation alone isn't enough to motivate you to check this album out, I'll play a bit of Opal's Reprise here, and I'll see you on the other side.
We hope that you like us being together, but you know it won't be forever. Though if it were up to Steve, we would always be a giant woman, 'cause all you wanna do.
Now it's time for us to look at the latest episode and see what we learned. If you haven't yet seen the episode, Sadie's Song, now's your chance to pause this video, go watch that one, then come back. Don't worry, we'll wait. This is your spoiler alert. New episode, new lore. Let's see what we learned. So for the second week in a row, we have an episode featuring a child's relationship with their mother. Now, last week it was Connie and Dr. Maheshwaran. This week, it's Sadie and Barb, who we finally have last names for. Miller, fitting considering Sadie works at a donut shop. But where Priyanka was hyper-restrictive, Barb was hyper-supportive. Being supportive may sound like a good thing on the surface, but this episode showed what taking a good thing to an extreme can be like. In this case, once Barb hears Sadie has an interest in something, she gets it in her head that Sadie is the best at the thing, because Sadie is the best at all the things, because that's her girl. This would be fine if Barb then stepped back and let Sadie do her thing her way, but the killer part of this killer cocktail is that she, like Priyanka, is also overbearing. Add in the fact that Sadie is a fairly shy person, as well as the complicated dynamic that is the parent-child relationship, and what you end up with is a situation in which Barb will, completely unintentionally and meaning totally well, mind you, buffalo Sadie into doing something she thinks Sadie wants to do, whether that's the truth of the matter or not, up until the point where some other external factor prevents Sadie from continuing.
I remember when you punched the umpire, and then I wasn't really allowed in the league anymore. Them's the breaks.
We can see in her room that this has happened over and over again. The ballet outfit, the swimsuit, the softball uniform, and the one that happens right in front of us, the pile of stuffed animals. At some point in her life, Sadie, probably like most kids, loved stuffed animals. Now it's not her thing, but her mom keeps bringing them to her. Why? Because Sadie didn't used to love stuffed animals, Sadie's always loved stuffed animals, ever since she was a little girl. So Sadie gets dragged along, and for a chunk of the montage, we get to experience how it feels from her perspective. We're shown the world literally through her eyes, with her mom and Steven helicoptering around her. She's not doing any of these things, the makeup, the hair, the eyeliner, what have you. Things are just happening to her. Even when she tries to escape the madness and go back to her bunker and maybe wait until it all blows over like some sort of natural disaster, she's just dragged back in. Who has ownership over this whole mess is even indicated through the dialogue. When Mr. Smiley says, "Looking good," Steven and Barb say, "Thank you," not Sadie. And when the lipstick comes off of Sadie's face, Steven says that she's ruined his lipstick. So why, after all this time, did Sadie never say anything to her mom? Well, for one, there's that whole parent-child dynamic I brought up earlier. A kid kinda has to do what their parents say when they're little, and that whole procedure just builds momentum over time. Alright, fine, but Sadie isn't a little kid anymore. She's a grown woman who can do what she wants. What else? Well, it can be hard to turn down help from someone, especially when that person is someone you care about. You know they mean well and you don't want to hurt their feelings, and would it really be so bad? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? And then, oh my god, this is terrible! But at that point, it's too late, and you technically literally asked for it. Finally, she did actually try to stop her mom. Sadie said that she could probably handle it herself, but Barb interpreted that not as "no thank you," but as "oh, no, you don't need to trouble yourself." Once again, we see an example of the conflict between perception and reality. After all, why wouldn't Sadie want her mom's help? After all, Sadie loves stuffed animals, right? In the end, everything ends up coming out, and Steven takes Sadie's place on stage. And it's at this point where the episode turned for me. I didn't like how it ended. Don't get me wrong, Steven was great, and Kiki and Nanafo's commentary was perfect, and it's kind of important to show a boy on major television with a dress on, but why was Steven the focus? Why didn't we just see Steven run onto stage, fade under the music, and have Sadie and Barb sit on the stairs, share a moment, and talk it out? We see the most tumultuous part of the revelation, but not the actual resolution of it. Sure, it's implied, but the entire rest of the episode was about Sadie. So we go, Sadie, 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 Steven time! It's like if Nightmare Hospital instead had ended with Steven talking to Lion about Rose, and only showed Priyanka and Connie talking and hugging it out in the background. Sure, it's a crowd pleaser for sure, but who is the episode really about? Where is the heart of the story? And that's what we learned this time on Steven Universe. Join us next week when we look at the episode Catch and Release. Until then, I'm Victor Frost, and I'll see you next time on Steven Universe.